Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. This particular video will be for the standard best of one format. If you're looking for best of three, explore, any of those kind of formats. Historic, we're still trying to get the data. I've been looking and it's basically just like the same old. As soon as I can get some new decks, I will post that video. But what we do is every week we highlight the best performing decks from MTGA, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client. Tracks your win rates, loss rates, deck collections, whole bunch of cool features and functionality. Link is in the video description if you want to get started. I'll paste all these deck lists as well, so you can get started with that as well. Before we jump into the details, just as we are closing out at the end of April, I was doing a charity promotion. Basically, every penny that I make from YouTube revenue this month of April, I'm donating the entirety of it to local Toronto-based food banks. So if you want to help out, just play my videos, like them, comment on them, help the algorithm, subscribe to the channel. All helps get more views, more revenue, the more I can donate. We just cracked $400, trying to get to 500 by the end of April to donate that. And speaking of subscriptions, we are at 8,400 subs on the channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 before June. So if you can, drop a sub. It's free, easy, and helps out the channel. So jumping into it, we're looking April 22nd through to the 29th. 59,000 games of best of one mythic rank towards the end of the month. So we want to look at mythic to see what's working. And we'll just jump into it. Old reliable is reliable. So if we're looking this blue-white soldiers deck, this is a deck that's basically the same as what it was. So we're not going to go too deep into it. If you have your soldiers deck, it could still win games. Notably, this version's on the Sky Strike Officers, some Denix, as well as Harbins, the Resolute package, one fewer copy of Thalia with Myrel on the top end. So we're not going to deep dive into the soldiers list because if you want to deep dive, literally been covering it for the last like 3 months and the weekly videos in some capacity. It's always to some degree has shown up. So if you want to see that, you can check out the other videos, but we want new stuff. We want new innovation, and new innovation is coming in mono red burn. So 66% win rate. And this has kind of got the core of the mono red burn deck, but with the addition of some new cards. So we still have the Kumano, Swiss Spears, single Phoenix Chicks, some Shivan Devastators, some Voldarins. You got your burn package, Play with Fire and Lightning Strike. 2 copies of Feldon, 2 copies of Bloodthirsty. But then we have a full playset of Bloodfeather Phoenix. 2 mana, 2/2, can't be blocked and flying. Whenever an instant or sorcerer you control deals damage to an opponent or a battle, you can pay a red and return the Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. What's cool is with like the blood tokens, you can discard it, get some utility there. And then we got an interesting one. I don't know, like the Phoenix seems really good to me. I don't know how good this Voldarin Thrillseeker is over something like Squee or the Battle of Rengantha, the deal 4 damage battle. Seems better to me, but so we have Voldarin Thrillseeker, 3 mana, 1/1. It's got backup 2, so when it enters the battlefield, you can put 2 counters on another creature, or to target creature. If another creature is targeted, it gets the ability of pay 1 and sacrifice this creature. It deals damage equal to its power to any target. So it works nicely with something like Bloodfeather Phoenix. I don't know how much you want to play it on curve, because at the end of the day, it's still just a 3 mana 1/1 or 3 mana 3/3. So it'd be interesting. I got to play with this a little bit more to see. And then you have the Stoke the Flames on the top end. You can convoke it. So you have 12 sources of damage to get back the Phoenix. 23 Lions does seem a little high in this particular list. It's like fringe. I can probably make do with 22. You are playing Mishra's Foundries and then the second copy of Sokuzen. It might just be trimming one of these. I usually only like 2 copies of Mishra in these decks. If you see how many 1-drop red pips, it sometimes leaves you where you can't multi-spell, and that's where there's a lot of utility in doing so. Another card you might want to consider as you play some games, and like I said, like this is something I try out, but I think in this type of shell, you might want Reckless Impulse or the new, basically the adjacent printing, the same card that exists. So then we go to the next deck, Esper Legends, 63%, and this is a deck that got the addition of Rona, Herald of Invasion. Lets you draw a card and discard a card, and then if you cast a legendary spell, which is this deck is full of, you get to untap the Rona, and then for 6 mana or 5 mana and 2 life, you get to flip it, and whenever it's dealt damage, you get to exile a card at random from their hand, and then play it if it's a land or cast it otherwise. So some big value top end, but Rona plays really nice with 2 cards in the deck. The Raven Man, because you can trigger it on each end step to draw a discard, so you get a bird each player's turn, as well as Toulouse, where when you discard the card, you can put it underneath Toulouse, and you get it basically back when Toulouse dies. The rest of the deck is just a bunch of legendaries, the kind of core Skrelv, Dennick, Thalia, Rafine deck, which we've seen for like the last year, some Shellys, Urtai, and AO on the top end, and as always, you have Plaza Heroes. You see 27 lands, that seems like a lot, but you're really taking advantage of these utility lands and the channel lands, given that everything's a legendary in this deck, it becomes very cheap to activate them. From one Legends deck to another, we're going to Abzan Legends. So very similar concept, your Thalias, your Skrelvs. This version's a little bit more aggressive, and what you're getting with green, so you have stuff like Jadar that's kind of making an appearance, Catilda to help you ramp to your bigger stuff, Melira as a protection spell, Glissa really makes your opponent really question what they're doing in combat. So they first strike, death touch, first strike deals damage first, the death touch will kill it in combat, so you could kind of win pretty much every battle. This provides you a lot of utility in either card draw and blowing up enchantments or getting rid of counters. Gix is kind of your card draw engine in the deck. And then you have Thalia and the Gitrog monster, sacrificing lands to get you card draw. It also lets you sacrifice a creature, so you play stuff like Jadar or the Adeline to make you tokens to draw that, and then you get to play additional lands. And again, first strike, death touch is a very powerful set of abilities. And as always, you're in black, so play Sheoldred. From there, we go to Jeskai Control. So this is kind of a Dragons control deck, 57%. So it's headlined by 2 new cards. You have Chrome Host Siege Shark, 3 mana, 2/4 flying, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value, which means basically you create a token that's an artifact, and then it has the ability to pay 2 mana to transform it into a 0/0 Phyrexian, and then basically the X is what its power is. So if you cast a Fable the Mirror Breaker, it becomes a 3/3 power, for example. Then you also have Zurgo and Ojutai as just kind of your top end, as hexproof as long as it enters the battlefield this turn. And then when it deals combat damage to a player, look at it, you basically anticipate and put it in your hand, and then you can decide to return Zurgo to your hand if you'd like, and kind of just every turn just flash it in. The rest of the deck is just going to be a bunch of removal, Flame Blast Bolt to Braid, Fires of Victory, you got your Fables, Sweepers, and Brotherhood's End, Depopulate, and Farewell. Your Wandering Emperors as kind of catch-all removal with the Exile, Memory Deluge for card advantage, and then you have 6 counters in Disruption Portal and Make Disappear, kind of headlining the deck itself. If I had to guess, this is probably Sanio's list. Likes his control decks. So we had the blue-white soldiers. Now we're looking at mono-white soldiers, 57% win rate. The mono-white version is playing Dusk Legion Duelist. It's a 2 mana, 2/2 vigilance. Whenever 1 or more counters would be put on the duelist, you draw a card. Notably, it can only be triggered once a turn. So you're pairing that with stuff like the Siege Veteran to put counters on it every turn, the Archangel Elspeth, which lets you put counters on things, or the graveyard ability of the Valiant Veteran, so it provides you some card advantage. You got your 8 1-drops as well as laydown arms. Removal spell early, removal spell late. It can deal with pretty much any size of creature because you're playing 19 planes in the deck. Some folks sometimes comment like, well, you're gaining your opponent 3 life, but you're also, for very efficient cost, exiling your opponent's spell. You look at your 3-drop slot, or your 2-drop slot, you got a lot of 2-drops, so something like Soul Partition, Fateful Absence, especially with Thalia, is going to be taxed, and then you're kind of playing further up on curve. With this, you want to dump your hand, be as efficient as possible, and kind of push through damage like that. We then move on to Rakdos Midrange, 56% win rate, and this is kind of a heavy removal spell deck that's looking to top out at Breach the Multiverse. Basically exile each player mills 10 cards. For each player, you choose a creature or a planeswalker from that graveyard. Put those cards into the battlefield in your control. So you get kind of 2 free casts out of each player's library. You can double it with Chandra. You have just like a bunch of... Everything's like a 2-for-1 in this deck. You got Vraska to kill something. You got Shieldred to kill something. And then it flips over to True Scriptures. Burn Down the House as a sweeper. Big Score either helps you ramp to these other spells, or Chandra out is basically free when you think about it. You discard 1 card, draw 4, but then you get 4 treasures. So you could kind of chain them together. A Tushi for treasures and some card advantage. Your Fable, Trespasser, single copy of Lily, Volcanic Spite. I always say Sprite or Sprike. Helps you kind of just clean up your hand. If you have, say you're playing against control and you got sweepers, you put it away. If you need if you have like a bunch of heavy drops and you need something earlier in the curve, it all helps like that. Bankbusters and go for the throats. So this is kind of like kill everything and then I steal your best things, win with planeswalkers kind of deal. And then lastly, the return of the basic forest, 55% win rate for mono green Stompy. So we had the pack leaders, we had the evolving adaptives, Tyvar's Stand, we got Canker Blooms and Quirion Beast Callers. What we got in the most recent set is Polukranos Reborn. 3 mana, 4/5 reach, and then for 6 in this deck you pay 6 and 2 life. You get Polukranos Engine of Ruin, which is a reach lifelinker. It's kind of like it's a port of Wormcoil Engine, basically. When it dies, you get a 3/3 Hydra with lifelink, a 3/3 Hydra with reach. Notably, if you have a Polukranos Engine of Ruin out and then you flip a second Polukranos, how it's worded is you get 4 tokens actually, which is kind of cool. Tribute to the World Tree is kind of your card advantage engine, or you just buff up your other things. Contaminator, 3 mana, 4/4 trample, all good stats mixed into there. Your Doomscar Warrior also provides you with some card advantage, gives you the trample effect if you need to kind of put it on another creature as well. So you can throw it on for the turn to say Polukranos, and then you get it really big. Or if you have a really big Beast Caller, all plays nicely. And then some Uvenwald oddities to also just be like the chunky top end with the deck. So that's it for the week. Kind of a quick covering. Let me know what you are playing in the format, what you've been liking, what you haven't. We also did a rundown if you're interested in which cards from the new set, March of the Machines, have had the best impact in terms of win rate in the new set. We did look at standard best of 3 for that, but we looked at a whole bunch of games. There's a whole bunch of statistics, so that video is up on the channel as well if you're interested in checking that out. But as I mentioned on the onset, if you can, like, comment, subscribe, and watch some videos through the month of April and obviously onwards, but specifically in April, we want to donate as much money as possible to help feed the hungry. Thanks for watching. Have a great one. Stay safe out there.